So you've just moved to Canada and you're thinking, I need a car. Maybe it's because you got a job outside the city, or maybe you're just tired of waiting for the bus in negative 20-degree weather. I get it. But before you start picturing yourself cruising down the highway, let's talk about what goes into buying a car in Canada. The Newcomer's Guide to Canada is brought to you in partnership with one of my favorite apps, LemFi. Money transfer shouldn't be complicated, but we've all been there. Hidden fees eating up your hard-earned cash, waiting days for money to arrive. I don't know about you, but I do not have time for that. So LemFi is changing the game. Transfers are sent within minutes from Canada, the US, and the UK to 10 African countries. No fees, great rates, and your money lands in minutes, not days. And here's a bonus. Use my code xoReni and get $10 on your first transfer of $100 or more. Now let's get back into the video. Buying your first car in Canada can give you some serious freedom, but it also can give you some serious financial responsibility. Whether you're coming from a place where cars are a luxury or where everyone has one, the Canadian car market has its own unique quirks. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what goes into owning a car, from hidden costs to insurance hacks. So let's get into it. First things first, let's break down the three main ways to get a car in Canada: cash, leasing, and financing. The first option is buying cash. This means that if your car costs $20,000, you cough up $20,000 up front and now you own the car outright. This is one way, but as I've mentioned in previous videos in the series, Canada really runs on a debt economy or credit economy. So here are some ways that many people get their cars on credit. The first way would be leasing a car. You can think of this like renting your car long-term. You'll get lower monthly payments compared to financing, and you're typically driving a newer car that has a warranty, so your repairs are minimal, but you do not own the car. You also have a mileage limit, and at the end of the lease, you either return the car back to them or you buy it at a predetermined price. Most people would choose leasing if they are a business owner and can write it off on their taxes, or if they want to turn their car in for a new car every 2 to 4 years without actually having to deal with the buying and selling of cars. The second option is financing. Financing means that you are buying the car outright with a loan. So it's kind of like getting a mortgage for a house. If the car costs $20,000, let's say you put down a down payment, which is $5,000. You will then get a loan for the balance, which is $15,000, and then they would charge you interest on that loan. So with financing, you typically will pay higher monthly payments to make month over month, but the benefit is that you own the car in full once that loan is paid off, unlike with leasing. Every payment that you make towards the loan will help you build equity or ownership in that car. And also, because it's your car, there are no limits to mileage or modifications that you can make to the car. I think financing sounds like the better option in this case, but it's also important to realize and remember that depreciation is real. So your car does lose value over time. So if you plan to sell it a bit later, it might not be worth as much. So which option is better for newcomers? I would say it really depends. If you're not sure how long you'll stay in Canada, leasing gives you that flexibility. But if you're looking to settle down long-term, financing usually makes more financial sense. Of course, the best thing to do would be to pay for the car in cash so you don't have to have a monthly payment, but I do recognize that that often isn't feasible for everyone. All I ask in whatever choice you make is that you choose an option that you can truly afford. And remember that your lease or your finance payment is not the only cost to consider when purchasing a car. So let me talk about some of the other fees to expect. One thing you absolutely cannot escape in Canada is car insurance. Car insurance is not just required by law, but driving without it can result in massive fines, and they can even take your license away. So this is something you don't want to play with. Insurance costs will vary widely across Canada. Ontario, where I live, especially the Greater Toronto area, has some of the highest rates for insurance. That can be between $1,500 to $4,000 annually. Quebec has some of the lowest rates, which is usually under $1,000 for the year. And then Alberta and the Atlantic provinces typically fall somewhere in the middle. As a newcomer, these insurance quotes may cause a little bit of sticker shock because the lack of Canadian driving experience that you have may mean higher monthly premiums that you're paying for your insurance on a monthly basis. A few of the factors that determine your insurance rate are these. One, your age and your driving experience. So if you're under 25, your rates will typically be higher. And if you are a new driver in general, they pay more because insurance companies see you as somebody who's risky. Another factor is your driving history. So if you have a history of driving, but you have no accidents and no tickets, you are going to get a better rate than somebody who does have an accident or a ticket on their record. The third thing is the type of car that you drive. So if you have a luxury car or a sports car, these typically will cost way more to insure than if you have a basic sedan. Also, one thing that people don't recognize is that the theft rates for your car model also play a factor. So I was reading something recently and I found out that Hondas are the most stolen car in the world, Honda Accord specifically. I had a Honda Accord and unfortunately it got stolen out of my driveway. And yeah, so to insure those cars, the insurance companies realize that they get stolen quite often. So it plays a factor. It plays a role in how much you pay in insurance. One last factor is where you live. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're in a big city like Toronto or the GTA in general, your insurance is going to be higher than someone who lives in a small town because there are more cars, meaning there's a higher likelihood of you getting in an accident. So if you are young, new to Canada, and living in a big city, yeah, your insurance might be a little bit expensive, but here are a few tips that can help you lower your costs. Tip number one would be to bundle policies. So if you are able to combine your home insurance and your renter's insurance with your auto insurance, then typically they will offer some kind of discount. Also, if you have multiple vehicles in the house, let's say you and your partner both have a vehicle, if you can insure them together, they often will offer a discount. Also, if you can use the same company as your partner or roommates or other people who live in your home, same thing. And also, it's important that you just shop around for policies. So you can go to an insurance broker and they can compare quotes across a bunch of different options. Do not go for the first one that you see. Make sure you are shopping around to see which one makes most sense for you. Another thing that you can do is that you can increase your deductible. So a deductible is basically how much you will pay if there's an accident. So let's say you have a $500 deductible. If the accident costs $1,500 to repair, you are going to pay $500 of that, and then the insurance company will pay the rest. So the higher deductible you have, the lower the monthly premium that they will charge you, because basically you are taking on some of the risk. I just want to make sure that if you do choose to increase your deductible, you make sure that you can afford the deductible when it comes about. The third tip to help you lower your insurance costs would be to take driver training. So if you take a Canadian driving course, this can help you lower your premiums by 5 to 15%, and I totally recommend this. I took a defensive driving course myself, and it definitely lowers your insurance rates. And also, if you're coming to Canada, it's a new country, so I think it is worth it to just learn how people drive in this country. And the last tip is to ask about discounts. There are a lot of different discounts that are out there, so just make sure to ask, especially if you are someone who's going to school here. There are typically alumni or student discounts from your Canadian university or college for specific insurance. Also, if you're part of any professional associations, they may have discounts. Your employer may also have group rates for your insurance. So it's all about asking questions so you can get the best rate. Okay, now I've mentioned two major costs. That's car payments and then also the insurance. But now let's talk about the cost of the car beyond those. The first cost you can look into is gas. So the cost definitely varies by province, but right now gas in Canada is around $1.50 to $2 per liter. So it gets a bit expensive. And I would say that personally I spend around like $100 a month on gas, but I don't really go out much. I go out I go out, but I work from home all the time. So I don't spend that much on gas. Other people I know spend $150, $200, $250 on gas, so just make sure you're budgeting accordingly. Next is maintenance. So there are lots of things that you need to do to maintain your car, those oil changes, new tires, surprise repairs. These can really add up. So I would say budget between $500 to $1,000 a year. There's also registration and licensing. So you need to register your car every year or two, and this can cost you either between $100 to $200 depending on the province that you're in. Also, there are parking fees. So if you live in a big city like Toronto, parking can cost you anywhere from an extra $100 to $300 per month, which is expensive. So budget that in. In some provinces like Quebec, winter tires are actually mandatory, and a full set can cost you anywhere from $600 to $1,200. Thankfully, that is just a one-time cost and you can use those tires over and over again. But again, something to factor in that I feel like a lot of people miss out on. Pro tip, if you're getting your car from a dealership, ask if they will throw in some tires as part of your package. So now let's put that all together. For a $25,000 car, your total annual cost, or your true annual cost, could be closer to $10,000 when you factor everything in, including that car payment. So that's why I always recommend that newcomers do a realistic budget before committing. So don't just buy a car because it is the thing to do, make a realistic budget. Here's a sample monthly car budget on the screen. You can see the car payment, the insurance, the gas, the maintenance. That's about $875 a month. So it can get pricey. Before we wrap up, let me share some specific tips for newcomers buying their first Canadian car. First, start with a used car. I think a used car is a great way to start. Personally, my car when I got it was around 2 or 3 years old, and this allows you to have a lower initial cost. There's less depreciation because it's already depreciated a little, and there are lower insurance premiums typically. And you may be concerned like, okay, is this still a reliable car? Is it safe? It can be reliable if it is properly inspected. So my second tip would be to get a pre-purchase inspection. So you can go to an independent mechanic and ask them to check out the car and spend maybe $100 to $200, which could save you thousands and thousands of dollars. I can't tell you how many people I've met who have bought cars, did not do any checks on it, and unfortunately, they had to cough up a few $1,000s to fix some issues that happened with the car. If they had just paid that $100, $200, they would not have that issue. So those are some tips that I would definitely recommend if you are buying a car. And again, that tip that I just mentioned is a non-negotiable for a used car if you're buying one. So the question is, should you buy a car in Canada? It really depends on your lifestyle, your budget, and if you can handle the real cost of car ownership. If you can, awesome. Just be smart about understanding financing, insurance, and maintenance. I hope this video was helpful and allowed you to learn a little bit more about the reality of purchasing a car and what really goes into it. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.